Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another episode of the strategy series. This one in particular is probably pretty overdue. I don't know why I haven't come back to this series in quite some time, but we're going to talk about Blue Baby today and how to counter it. If you guys want me to cover any other strategies going into set 14, whether they're, new strategies or older strategies and how to counter them, make sure to let me know down in the comments. Like King Vegeta is probably a good one. Maybe Cell Surge. We'll talk about some of those and let me know in the comments below which ones you guys want me to cover. But anyways, we'll get into Blue Baby today. But before that, make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. And if you guys want to help support the channel, there are many ways in the description as always, which will help do so. But particularly today, if you want to buy or pre-order any cards you see in today's video, or any trading card game cards for that matter, make sure to use my link in the description to TCG Player. It does help the channel out a lot. Let's get into the video. All right, so we always start these videos by talking about what the strategy that we want to counter does. So Blue Baby, one of the most hardcore control decks in all of Dragon Ball Super's history. It's just floodgate after floodgate, and the counter cards in the deck are made one less cost by Planet Tuffle. There are some nice ways to remove Planet Tuffle if you are in green specifically. So if you're in green, be looking out for those Vegetas and Piccolos you can use to pop the Planet Tuffle field card. That is a pretty good option. Green's not all that popular in the meta though, so we're not going to talk about green too much, but that is a way I wanted to kind of highlight for how to counter Blue Baby in that specific way. But anyways, looking at the main cards that Baby uses to really just stall the game out and get to their win condition, two of those main cards are Gohan Baby's Minion and Vegeta Ready to Rumble. So with these two cards, the majority of the floodgates you're going to go up against in Blue Baby. The other ones being Dimension Magic and Revenge Big Bang Attack, which are their one-off negates that get them a whole lot of value. But yeah, these are the main floodgates that give you the most problem. If you catch Blue Baby on a turn where they don't have access to one of either of these cards and they're relying on like those one-off negates, you're actually in a pretty good spot. These cards just, hinder you from attacking for the rest of the turn unless you, meet their cost, which in the case of Gohan is putting a card from hand to the bottom of the deck, and then Vegeta Ready to Rumble, you have to lose one of your energy. And they're pretty much stalling a turn 7 to drop Android 17 Turning the Tide, which wipes both players' hands, but they don't really care about that because they'll draw off their leader, draw off their unison, and then they'll just kill you from there. They don't always have to win with Turning the Tide. One of the biggest problems that people have when they go up against Blue Baby, especially when your opponent drops Baby's Minion on them, Gohan Baby's Minion, is what we call taking the challenge. And that's when a player overextends. They start attacking even though their opponents use Gohan Baby's Minion, and they're losing a ton of cards from hand and put themselves back in a really vulnerable position. There are some instances where you can take the challenge against Gohan Baby's Minion, but that's going to be when you're playing a hyper aggressive deck like Red Broly, maybe Vegex, maybe the new Mass Saiyan coming out in set 14. Yeah, there are some very niche circumstances where you can do that, again, if you are playing a super aggressive deck. But if you're playing a mid-range strategy that can't really end the game on like turn 3, that could be a pretty bad call, just to make yourselves aware of that. Going through Vegeta Ready to Rumble is also pretty tough because he makes you lose energy. So if you know you have enough damage points and a lot of combo power in hand, it could be worth it to go through Ready to Rumble. Just make sure you use that energy before you lose it if you can help it. It also really helps too if you have some sort of spot removal for Ready to Rumble to make sure that you can get around the blocker before you start going in. That would be really good as well. And as far as Android 17 Turning the Tide, there is a really good answer to this card in the form of Jiren Survival of the Fittest. It's a 2-drop counterplay in black that any deck can play. Draw a card, and cards in your hand can't be returned to your deck by your opponent's skills for the turn. So if you counterplay Turning the Tide with this, even though Turning the Tide has Deflect, this card is not doing anything to Turning the Tide itself. It's just preventing you from having to put cards back into your deck by your opponent's skills. Now that's really good against Turning the Tide, but this actually has a very strange interaction with Gohan Baby's Minion, which, as we saw before, does force you to put cards from your hand to the bottom of your deck if you want to keep attacking. And Jiren prevents that. It doesn't make it like an optional thing, like you don't have to put cards from your hand to your deck. This says you cannot. So Gohan Baby's Minion says you can't attack unless you put a card to the bottom of your deck. So if you counterplay that with Jiren, you're not gonna be able to attack for the rest of that turn. So just keep that ruling in mind. I can see where some people would think, oh, I counterplay Gohan Baby's Minion with Jiren and now I'm good. I don't have to, resolve the effects of the Gohan Floodgate. That's not really how it works. So keep that in mind. Anyways, let's move on. Alright, so there are actually counterplays in every color that can help against Baby. And for black, you have Super Kamehameha. For blue, you have Absolute Release Ball, and for green, you have Focus Breakthrough. Now, the thing these all have in common is that they negate the play of a 3 cost or less battle card, and because of Planet Tuffle, Gohan Baby's Minion and Vegeta Ready to Rumble are going to be 3 or less cost when they use them for their counter skills. Now, the thing with these cards is you do have to be at 4 or less life, and you can use them for free by taking a life as long as you meet one of their requirements. They each have different ones. But yeah, the nice thing here is the Self-Awakening or the life taking to use them for free is really good against Baby, because you're not really worried about them being super aggressive with you. So if you even go to 3 or 2 life, it's not the end of the world. And getting that extra card to hand is just more power you can use to start beating them, because you got to beat them before they get to their win condition. And if you're not using energy to use these counter plays, that's more energy you can invest into aggressive plays, especially Absolute Release Ball, which when you use it actually untaps one of your blue energy, so you can keep extending your turn, which is really, really nice. Moving into the other colors though, we have Tyrannical Blow, which is actually a really insane one. Like, there is a yellow counterplay that goes in line with like the Beerus Ball and the Focus Breakthrough in those, but that card's really, really bad. It's just a Crusher Ball with more restrictions. Tyrannical Blow though is insane. You don't have the option to use it for free, unfortunately, but if your leader card's yellow, the battle card being played as energy cost of 3 or less, it's played with its skills negated for the turn. So same thing, negates the skills of a 3 or less. And then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards or unison cards and negate its skills for the turn. So this can actually be really insane against Blue Baby, where you stop like their Ready to Rumble or their Gohan Baby's Minion, and then you actually get to negate the skills of their Boo unison, so they don't get to block with it or use its -1 to bottom deck one of your battle cards. So that's really solid there. Beerus Ball, I wanted to mention it. It's not really amazing, but it is like okay for red. You can stop the play of Gohan Baby's Minion because its servant doesn't take place until it actually hits the board, and Beerus Ball prevents it from even entering play, so that is useful there. You might be citing Beerus Ball for like a green matchup for like charismatic villains, so it can be useful in this matchup. Just wanted to mention it, but red actually has much better options against Blue Baby, which we'll talk about now. Alright, so for red, game 1 against blue, and particularly Blue Baby, actually can be quite rough, but these two tech options, whether you want to mainboard them or sideboard them, are super good. So Broly Crown Retribution, 1 drop. If your leader's red, when you play this card from your hand, if your opponent has 2 or more energy in active mode, your opponent reveals their hand and you choose up to 1 battle card with 20,000 power or less and place it in the owner's drop area. So they're playing a control deck that needs to play floodgates, so they're always going to have that energy open. So you're going to look at their hand, pick out the Ready to Rumble, pick out the Gohan Baby's Minion, and just get full knowledge of what they have. That's incredible. And then Vegito Unison of Might, the important thing here is the -2. Activate main until the end of your opponent's next turn. If your opponent would play a battle card using a skill, it's placed in the owner's drop area instead. So by playing this and using the -2, if you have an established board already, which would be ideal, you basically say, okay, now you can't play Gohan Baby's Minion and you can't play Ready to Rumble. They can still use Baby Hatch if they haven't used it already in that game, or if they happen to draw their 1-up Secret Rare, which unfortunately for them is somewhat searchable because that effect Baby Hatch is all in the counter place or counter attack skill. But still, the -2 on Vegito is really solid, and it can be actually really good in a lot of other matchups. So you might want to consider sideboarding it if you're playing a red deck. But yeah, these are great side deck options for red to help beat Blue Baby. And then next up, I wanted to talk about the 1-drop draft box Silver Bullets, as they're known. You have Gohan Changing History for black. You have Chi-Chi Martial Melee for yellow. You have My King Piccolo's Underling for red. There's a few options for you guys. Yeah, these cards punish your opponent for using counter skills that untap energy. They have to crit a life and lose an energy to do so. Now, these cards are actually kind of underwhelming against Blue Baby, depending on what deck you're playing. So this is gonna be another scenario where I think these cards are really, really good if you're playing some sort of aggressive strategy, like a Red Broly, like a Vegex, like a Mass Saiyan, something like that. These cards can actually be really, really good because you're going to be putting your opponent under so much pressure that, you know, they might floodgate and you might be able to even push through the Gohan Baby's Minion or the Vegeta Ready to Rumble, and then they need to then rely on like a Sparking Dimension Magic or maybe a Revenge Big Bang attack with their 1 available energy. So if you play this alongside all of that, you're going to be putting a whole lot of pressure on them and probably end the game early. But again, if you're playing another control deck or a slower mid-range deck, this is going to be a lot less impactful because they're just not going to be under that type of pressure where they're going to be super scared, because they can just like Dimension Magic or Revenge Big Bang attack and not untap energy. So if they're in a position where they're safe to do that, these cards are going to be much less effective. But basically, you want to be putting the pressure on to the point where they need to untap that energy with that Dimension Magic. Otherwise, they're going to lose either way. So that's where these cards are more effective, in my opinion. And next up, I want to talk about Vegeta and Goku True Fighting Spirit. So if you're playing any number of Black Saiyan leaders, again, Vegex, Mass Saiyan, Dark Broly, those types of leaders, these cards are excellent answers to Blue Baby. Goku punishes your opponent for activating counter skills, and Vegeta punishes your opponent for untapping energy. So they can both be really good against Blue Baby. But there is a problem with these cards and how players use them. A lot of times you actually just don't want to play these guys out to the board and let them sit there. You might think that Blue Baby doesn't have a lot of removal, but a lot of Blue Baby players are now teching removal for cards like this because they know that these cards answer their deck really hard. Just take a look at Brandon's first place baby deck that I posted a few days ago, the player interview there. He's main decking several options to remove cards like this. So the way you want to actually go about using cards like this is playing them on your game turn. On the turn you're looking to either go for game or put on a ton of pressure, because they can't really remove these cards during your turn. It's if you play these on like turn 1, turn 2, and you expect them to just sit out there and live, and then your opponent has a removal and you're in a really bad position. So that's a really solid way you're going to want to use these cards to your advantage. And then finally, guys, if you just like hate Blue Baby and you want to absolutely just destroy every blue player you come against and you don't even care about like winning other matchups, play some sort of hand control. Hand control does do very well against Blue Baby. Cell Surge is probably the best hand control deck in the game at the moment. It's a really solid deck, so I just wanted to throw that out there. But anyways, guys, I want to know in the comments below what you guys thought about this guide. Also, what other decks you want me to cover in future episodes of the strategy series. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.